Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Recruiters Network webinar. My name is Jason Buss. I am the head of talent acquisition at Pinterest and the founder of the Recruiters Network. We're super excited that you're able to join us today. We have an amazing lineup to answer many of your questions that we received up until now, and we'll also open it up to live Q&A towards the end. The recording will be sent out later today to all registrants, and I am going to turn it over to my great friend and colleague, Kate Bischoff, who will intro the panelists and get us started. So Kate, over to you.
Hello everyone and welcome to today's panel. I am very fortunate to be surrounded by a bunch of very fascinating, exciting, and talented women. With us today is Tracy Baird. She is a kick-ass hockey mom working for the Bueller Group in talent acquisition and HR. Christy Jones, the best painting edger I have ever seen, also in talent acquisition with the Spring Venture Group. Tila Jackson, your future HR cruise director, is a vice president of HR search with Talent Connections. Erin Stevens, a recovering jazzercise instructor and future Cancun resident, is with Master Brand Cabinets. So with today's session, we have lots of questions about working from home and doing talent acquisition in this time. So let's get started, ladies. So statistics show about approximately 55% of us have started to work from home, or as I prefer it, working where we're living. So Erin, what resources have you used now that you are in your apartment? What are you doing to source and recruit talent?
Well, what's interesting is I've actually worked from home for the last 5 years. So this was not a huge transition for me. But I will say a lot of individuals did reach out and ask, you know, what can I do? But as a recruiter, I mean, a lot of the stuff that we do normally, we can do remotely and almost from anywhere, as long as we have an internet connection and have a cell phone or some type of phone and are just willing to get out there and touch people. But the one thing of advice I like to give people transitioning to work from home and you know, being able to do that is set boundaries for yourself. A lot of people like being able to go into the office, and then when they leave the office, they leave their work, right? But when you work from home, it's there all the time. And one of the first things that I had to learn was to set kind of office hours for myself, put the computer down, be able to walk away and say no. And I think that's probably one of the biggest pieces of advice I try to give people, specifically with the big change. But for me, it has not really affected my sourcing and recruiting too terribly much from my end. But definitely for managers, it's been fun coaching them.
What resources have you been using?
Gosh, what resources for sourcing and recruiting? I'm about ready to use the phone book for one of my plants because I just can't get people. Literally, that's probably the last thing I'm going to do. I work, you know, we have the main staples, your resume databases, Indeed, LinkedIn, your own ATS system. I rely a lot on, I do a wide variety of recruiting, from executive recruiting all the way down to production associates at times. Social media, specifically during this time, has been a real big thing. Some things that people don't think about specifically would be like Facebook groups, holding, you know, interview days or interview meetings, cross-posting. So for example, I'm sure all of us have some sort of Facebook group we're in locally, whether it be our city local Facebook group, or there are jobs groups out there, yard sailing. Those are places that you can really cross-post locally and try to gain new talent as well. You know, obviously, if I'm really digging deep, traditional Boolean searching via all the fun websites that are out there. I'm also known as the master searcher for people, even not only in my day job, but for my friends who are going on dates with people. I can let them know if they're legit or not. But the internet really is, I mean, it could be, you know, it's something that we're absolutely having to use.
Awesome.
That lesson. Got it.
So Christy, have you been working at home? And if so, what kind of tools and resources have you been using?
Yeah, so we have been at home, gosh, before the stay-at-home order went into place, we actually sent all of our 900 employees home. So we've been doing it since early March. So, and typically we're not a work from home company. We hire a ton of inside sales agents. So lots of activity on the phones and at your desk, but honestly, we transitioned 900 people home in 3 days. And so we really had to think about how do we attract talent, because one of the things we were missing is having candidates come in and recruit and source them to be able to come in and actually look at your environment, and also is job shadow. So we had to solve for a few pieces that we couldn't any longer do in the office. So a couple things, my team, I have about 10 recruiters on my team. And so what they've been doing a lot of is we've really had to shift gears to more virtual events. I mean, I think we all talked about we were tired of career fairs, we were tired of virtual events, but I will tell you, for us in particular, we use Handshake. We have the premium account, which has been the best investment. Now, I will tell you, I'm fortunate to work for a company that allows me to buy a lot of tools for my employer or my employees. So some of you are not as fortunate as that. So the good thing is we can invest in our recruiters. So Handshake, we've done a ton of virtual events. We've got a lot of candidates from that. We just do virtual events just in general for alumni as well on there. So it's not just for current college grads. We do a lot of searching for alumni, and then maybe I would say more seasoned talent. And then also we've been using Indeed interview events. So typically the Indeed interview events would have been in person in your office. We've transitioned all that to virtual, and we've streamlined it a little bit by using HireVue, and we're using a online video assessment pre-recorded to do those interviews, so that we're not using all of our managers' time. We usually rely on our managers just to do the in-person interviews once they get through that. So we've really made a shift. But then again, like Erin said, we're using a lot of the typical tools. Our ATS, we have iCIMS. We also use, like I said, Indeed, LinkedIn. We do have a sourcing AI tool called Aria that we are piloting this year. So we've been using that. And then also the other thing I would say is that, well, Indeed's been pretty great for us, but as far as an advertising standpoint, we do a ton with our marketing team, and we do social media ads. We're doing lots of sponsored posts. We're also doing radio. We're doing old school radio. And I will tell you that has actually we've seen some traction from that. So that's what we've been doing. So we're kind of all over the place. I'm doing a little bit of everything. Again, it's good to have a budget to be able to do that though.
Yeah. Well, and to piggyback off Christy in regards to budget, sponsored Facebook ads are actually not too terribly expensive. That is something that we use quite a bit as well. And, you know, you can run an ad, either they call them dark ads or front-facing ads. You can run both of those. And again, partnering with marketing, luckily I have a pretty strong relationship with our marketing team, and they help me out quite a bit as well. And that's especially in recruiting, you have to have, we don't have marketing degrees, right? At least some of us don't. So it's good to find someone who's, you know, a real expert in that side to help out.
Awesome. So have you two streamlined or upgraded your selection at all during this time? Now that everything's done virtually? So that was actually a real fun change management thing that we had to go through. So I work in manufacturing with a lot of operations individuals who want to physically see and touch and be in front of those people. So this was great because it really forced them to use Zoom, and it made the process so much quicker. So normally it would be, you know, a pre-screen with myself forwarding the candidate information over, then they would review the process or review the candidate, have a phone interview, and then they just want to bring them straight on site. But obviously with COVID and watching all of that, we've had to really watch who comes in and out of our plants, which we stayed open during all of COVID as well. So that was fun. But it forced them to do Zoom calls, and it actually made kind of our hiring managers to use technology and really embrace how it would work for us. And it actually sped the process up along because we could do it fairly quickly. They didn't have to go anywhere. There was no travel. And then finally that last step, if they found a candidate, then we would do hey, come on site. And because you do need to physically see a plant.
but yeah, we've been utilizing it quite a bit. It did speed up our process and made us use technology more.
That's awesome. So Tracy, now that we're talking a little bit about sourcing, things have changed a great deal in how we do onboarding, whether it is I'm going to show you my passport over Zoom, or I'm going to, integrate you into a team. So how have you been doing that kind of work?
Yeah. So I think first and foremost that onboarding isn't an event, it's a journey. And so it gets a little bit trickier when we talk about a virtual journey versus, they're in person and physically here. So we too have been obviously working from home, but we're in the manufacturing sector. And so my manufacturing group has still been working this whole time, which has been great. But again, the rest of us in the office positions have been away. We've hired 16, 17 new hires during this past 3-month stint. And so it's been really interesting, and we've kind of learned. So a couple things that we've done is really figured out, and any company needs to do this, and if they haven't figured it out, they have to. You have to get in front of these people virtually, right? And so you have Zoom, you've got Skype, you've got Google Meets, however you want to do it. You have to see each other's face. And that's, half the battle, because when you connect with somebody, then you're starting to connect to the company. And then you have to figure out how to get them culturally connected. And so if they can't feel the environment and the people that they work with, what stories can you start sharing with them, and what videos can you start sharing them? And that kind of brings them together with the company overall. And from a manager perspective, I recommend really meeting with your new hires quite often, even if it's a 20-minute check-in every day. Hey, how's it going? What do you got going on today? What's your to-do list? What's the outcome of yesterday? Who are you meeting with? And the meeting with is a huge thing too. You want the team that they're part of to feel that they're part of right away. That's such an important thing. You've recruited somebody because your company is good. You've got a good position. They like what they've seen. How do you keep that going? And just having that connection is just extremely important.
Awesome. You guys, both you and Erin are in manufacturing. And so that addition, like now you're going to be in a place where you might not have been before because you're in a manufacturing site and you're in the middle of COVID. So that onboarding must include some sort of discussion about the safety things that you're going through, right? Like how have you approached that?
So I can go on that. So with COVID, we've got a playbook. It's all about safety, and that's probably the first thing that we go through now with our employees to show how safe our company has actually been. In the factories, they have a whole safety training day. And show them how we're being safe. Keeping the 6 feet apart, the cleaning process when they check in or check out of their workstations. We do fogging every night. After each shift as well, to make sure that we're trying to be safe. So if people are feeling comfortable with us, then that's the best thing possible, right? We're currently trying to get people back into the workforce, into the offices, and so we've split people up into teams. So we're trying to get 50% back into the offices. So again, the playbook is such a huge component of that, to show them how we're trying to be safe with people. But virtually, we talk about safety all the time.
Awesome.
Yeah, we have our number one, we have something called our 4 basics, and our number one is a safe and clean workplace. So this has really pushed us to display that as well. In regards to onboarding too, it's, showing them what the plant looks like, having, showing how we've had to alter practices, again, the cleaning, et cetera. The other thing too, in regards to safety and whatnot is, again, reducing those interactions, specifically for onboarding. We are shipping our individuals their items that are needed, their laptops, their phones, their hookups, and then getting them set up with someone to have that all set up. Was it rocky in the beginning? Absolutely, because we didn't know what we were doing. But like Tracy said, now we kind of have that playbook of, this is what steps we need to take. It's been a very interesting experience.
So Chrissy, how are you doing onboarding? What has changed for you all?
Yeah, so for us, we're very high volume shop. I think my team has about 200 positions left. I think we'll hire around 600 just inside sales reps this year. And then we have another, probably 100 corporate jobs. So our company went from 3 employees to 1,000 in 10 years. So we grew very quickly. So and I think last year we only had 200 sales agents, and now we're sitting at 600. So it's been quite the job. So for us, we really have to look at how do we do things in scale, and that's been a big thing for us. And even going home, we do what Erin is doing. Everything is shipped to their home. So our onboarding, I would say, is pretty seamless. We have a great process where we have HR coordinators that verify addresses. They speak to the candidates. They get very detailed information about who's going to contact them next. We have trainers contact them. We have IT contact them. They schedule appointments with IT. We just send out a calendar schedule. They schedule a slot. IT sets them up with all their equipment. So everyone gets about an hour with our IT department. And then also, then on their day one, we use Adobe Connect for all of our training tools and for our onboarding as far as orientation. So everybody logs into a classroom setting, and we do all of our onboarding through that, and also all of our training through Adobe Connect right now. And that was a big shift for us because all of our training was done live in person like everyone else. So that was a big change, and we've had to make a lot of adjustments, I would say. But for the most part, it has been pretty seamless. And I think it's been a great experience, and we just continue to get better every month as we hire hundreds of people. And then we do try to separate our corporate positions out a little bit because they kind of get lost in the shuffle with all of our sales agents. When you're in a class, like our last class had 100 that we just brought on last week. Last Monday was like 105 people. So we try to we do them about every other week too. And so then we also put our corporate people on an off day and let them have some specific time. We also have seasonal, we have different locations, we have remote. And so some of those have different comp plans. So then again, that gets a little complicated where you have to separate them in different rooms. So it's been very interesting, but even if people need equipment last minute in Kansas City, our office, we do curbside pickup. So if we last minute hire some people, they'll curbside pickup, you come out, you tell them your name, and you just pick up your equipment off a cart. So we've really had to adjust due to COVID, but so far it's working very, very well.
Awesome. Okay, so Tila, you're up. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
Awesome. I'm always ready for you. Okay. When considering the candidate experience, what are you doing to ensure the changes in your processes are seamless? Like, what have you been doing to create that kind of seamless experience for our candidates?
So our firm is working with several different candidates across many organizations, from manufacturing to professional services to technology to healthcare technology and everything in between. And so what we've been doing and what we've talked to our team and what I talked to my team about doing quite a bit is just over communicating, frankly. It's been real. You can't possibly over communicate right now, and setting that expectation with the candidate up front of how the process will look, even if you're not sure of how far they'll make it into the process, and even if you do have to send that dreaded note or make that dreaded phone call to let them know that they're not moving forward, helping them to have that information ahead of time is really, really helpful just to set expectations. Also, we can't guarantee a certain time frame of which the position would be closed within, but being able to just share with them, hey, here's where we are in the process. Following up with them. Also, we've been sending out videos to help them understand how the actual offices look for our clients. So we ask each of our clients, thankfully, most of them are one of maybe 4 people that are in a building that normally houses 8,000. So maybe they're one of 4 people that's the number 1 or number 2 in HR. And we just ask them to do a quick walk around. Like, can you do a walk around your floors? Almost like take your phone. It shouldn't be longer than a minute, but just walk into your doors like you normally would, unlock the door, walk in, go to your desk, and just show us that process. Because it gives the candidate a feel of what they might work within when we all do go back to the office. Because the worst thing I think that plagues me in my brain is sending someone some place that's awesome virtually, but then when they get in the office environment, they're thinking, oh, I thought I was going to have an office and I have a cube, or I thought the cubes weren't closed and they're open. And little things like that matter to people. So sharing that with them and giving them a video feel of how the office looks. Now, we do have to really push for that, but then also sharing with them virtual video interview tips has probably been the most beneficial part of helping to prepare the candidates for the interview. And it's not a cheat sheet per se, but it does give them a feel of how the interview will run. Is it a behavioral interview? Is it a pointed question interview? Is it a panel interview? But then also sharing with them that, to make sure that they have their sound, testing that. So my right hand will sometimes test the technology with candidates to make sure that it's up and running and the sound and the video is all working. But also we're providing those same documents. I know we're talking about candidate experience, but we're providing those same documents to our hiring managers, which is even more important. I think the candidates have the gist of jumping onto a webinar or getting the video and the sound right. It's the hiring managers that are conducting video interviews from the golf course or, from their backyard and you can't see them, or they have a hat on and you can't really see their faces. And, so I do get the calls afterwards from the candidates, and I do ask all of them to follow up with me in an email. Just send me 2 lines. How did it go for you? Is there anything we can improve? And one of them was that the hiring manager was on the golf course interviewing while actually trying to play golf. So just making sure that we don't need to mandate where they sit necessarily, but we do need them to be free of activity is what we've shared in the preparation document, so that their full attention is on interviewing that candidate. So that, and again, that speaks to, even though it's not focused on candidate experience, it speaks to the candidate's experience and how they will experience the interview process with them.
Absolutely. There are lots of things we should be telling hiring managers not to do while interviewing. Using the bathroom, another example. All of those things are important. So,
yeah.
So, Erin, what have you guys been doing for the candidate experience?
I mean, I almost just have to say what Tila's been doing. I mean, literally, so I have a great HR admin as well. We came up at the very beginning of tips and tricks. We did a nice little write-out. This is what you should do. Quiet area. Test your internet before, make sure everything's charged, and it would send it to both, I know, right? Both the hiring managers and our candidates. Again, like going back to, I think what we were saying earlier too, over communicating, just continuing to over communicate, checking in with them. Are you comfortable with using this? I mean, and it could be seen that we're too touchy, but sometimes I don't think we're touchy enough. Like, and the other thing is being able to get them on multiple sources. Texting.
Depends on the touchy. Just
we don't need any harassment up in here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No harassment. But text, being able, following up with multiple modes too, texting them, calling them, emailing them, kind of keeping them on their toes. But yeah, because people communicate differently, but definitely trying to make it. I always see myself, and I know Tila sees it the same, as we are a service provider. We are providing that service. We are to make your recruiting and lives easier, because then from both in-house, corporate, and third party, they're going to want to still come to you and use your service because you have done so well for them in the past, both on the candidate and the hiring manager side, I would say.
Awesome. So just a tip for any of the folks who are listening in or watching, please feel free to send us your questions either in the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll do our best to get to them. So for example, this question from an anonymous individual is, how are you guys reaching out and targeting folks, like making an affirmative effort in this time from a virtual standpoint? So normally we'd be going to career fairs. We would have visited college campuses at this point in time. We would have done a bunch of different things within our local community. So how are you guys reaching out to those?
I'll just jump in here.
Okay.
I'll just start, but I'll say that what we've been doing mostly is through email marketing. So most of our roles are professional roles, so they're not, hands-on manufacturing facility environments or operations type positions. They're more professional corporate positions, and with that, I think so many companies and people forget about the gold that is sitting in their applicant tracking system, and not only just targeted email marketing, but just sending something out to let people know, here's what we're hiring right now. So what we are doing more now than we did before is doing that through videos. So sending a video to someone and saying, hi, I'm Tila Jackson. I lead the search practice here, and I'd love to talk to you about this role. Here's a little bit about the company. Please give me a call, email me, or we can set up a Zoom. You know, giving them multiple avenues to connect is also really key right now, and understanding that many people are working from home, but that doesn't mean that they just have the leisure to jump on with you at any time. So being a little bit more flexible than normal with that. But what's worked tremendously for us, just from a response perspective, which we've gotten about 82% response and open rate, which is unheard of, is email marketing.
Yeah, same here. Again, actively reaching out to candidates in our database. A lot of Indeed resume search. We have that function here at MasterBrand. Also trying to get employee referrals have always been, hey, listen, one of the things is we are considered an essential employer. So we have been open and working throughout this time. So having them reach out to individuals who may have, already lost their roles. That's a whole other topic to discuss on that. But trying to get those employee referrals and continue to get them through the marketing, social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, showing them, our company culture and how we've been changing throughout this as well.
Awesome. So another quick question was, have you guys found that virtual career fairs are effective? And what tools have you been using to do those? Anybody?
Yeah, I think I said earlier, I mean, from a virtual career fair, a lot of what we're doing is campus career fairs. We did sign up for a couple other ones and we backed out because they had to move out the date and we weren't going to be hiring. So unfortunately, I can't speak to any non-campus, but we've been doing it all through Handshake. And I will tell you, it's been very effective because what my team does is they go into Handshake, they actually set up RSVPs for the career fair, and then for people that they want to attend and talk to our recruiters or talk to a hiring manager. And we have a way better response when you ask people to RSVP to you versus just like, hey, go check out our job. Here's an email campaign. You have to be very targeted now. It's very different than just showing up at a career fair. You have to take the time and show them that you're interested as much and sell your organization. So that's something we've really learned is we've kind of had to turn the table now that it's really talent, it's their market, not ours. So we really have to think about how do they want to be served? Like Tila said, it's a lot of how do I contact you? How do I get you involved and invested in our company?
But I think the tables have turned before COVID time, right? So like when you talk about the Handshake tool and that kind of thing, that when we could go, not virtually, but in person to career fairs, we still use those tools to connect because we still wanted people to RSVP. So just the fact that we're not physically there, I don't think it really skipped any beats, to be honest, because we still reach the candidates in the other ways that we've used, alongside going there physically.
Christy, question for you. I mean, for me, traditionally, are you targeting those college grads though for your roles in regards to Handshake? Okay. So that was a question I had for you is, I know you're targeting those college, so that's why Handshake works really well for you. Okay.
College grads or, some of it though, we were looking at seasonal work and honestly, then we were looking at, pretty much any year of student because they could come in and work seasonal or part-time. So we're also looking at part-time positions and that's another good market that you can really hire any level of student. So we are kind of piloting, I would say, some of that. We're looking at offering part-time positions. So that's something new for our org that we're going to continue to explore.
Mm-hmm. For the internship.
Look, I'm learning something.
Oh, sorry.
I just said I'm learning something. I'm so excited.
I know, we all are, right? I think this is great. What I was going to say for the Handshake one, it's more of the interns we use that for. So yes, for the college focused, that's a great tool that they can collaborate on. I just wanted to add for the professional type positions, it is very targeted. It is a lot of work on LinkedIn and who you know, and trying to climb those avenues like the good old recruiting days. It's not the post and pray method. We've passed those days. So it's really trying to dig up the talent and the connections for those professional type roles.
And I do want to add, One more thing, and it's a resource that's often overlooked, I think, when we're recruiting, and that is, especially in times like this when unfortunately companies are laying people off quite a bit due to COVID, is partnering with outplacement firms. They're getting hundreds of people that are really, really sharp, that are being impacted purely because of COVID and the fact it has nothing to do with performance at all. So partnering with those the big outplacement firms usually have databases that you can go in and source talent in as well. But then if you, hopefully, I keep saying that for COVID, a lot of the work that you did before COVID is what's paying off right now. So building those relationships with those outplacement companies, building the relationships with the colleges and not just going, flying in once a year, flying out, but actually having a contact there is really, really helpful right now when you're doing more of the direct reach outs and you don't have the opportunity to walk through a room with students or, set up an interview day at a college.
That's awesome. So when we talked about onboarding before, we talked about how you were shipping your computers and shipping the equipment out to folks. Are you having them spend that one-on-one time with IT to set that stuff up, or is it done kind of as a group, we're all in this together kind of thing? How are you handling that?
Yeah, for us,
we're having to meet one-on-one as well. We're having to meet with our IT and setting that up because there are different levels of technological people, I should say. Some could probably just set it up. Me personally, I just have my husband put it together for me. But there are other people who know how to do it. It's just easier. And but they need that step by step. And there's a lot of, depending on your level of security at your company, there are certain steps you have to go through to get that process. So we do that.
Yeah, we actually, when we ship your equipment, we have we call it a smart card. It walks you through how to at least set up all your technology step by step. And then you can set your appointment with the IT, like I said, virtually online, and then they go through it video with you and make sure you have all the programs and can log in. And then our trainers do that as well prior to you starting so that it's really seamless prior to day one. So we back up their start date. So if your start date, typically our start dates are on Mondays, but we back up their start date now to the previous Wednesday. So we give them Wednesday to Saturday. Our IT will set up on Saturdays as well. So we give them a lot of options and flexibility, whatever works with their schedule. But yeah, we really give them a lot of user kind of details in email and in the box with their equipment.
So what are you guys doing if you have a candidate who might not have the technology available to them to do the Zoom and those kinds of things? How are you handling that situation? And I'm going to pick on Tracy because she hasn't spoken a bit. So I'm going to start with her.
Hi. So we have been fortunate enough where when we don't ship the IT, once they get the IT and the laptop and that kind of thing, so the professional side of the business, we have Skype right on their laptop with a video camera. So we give that to them, the tools that they need to do their job. On the manufacturing side, again, that's been in person. So we haven't run into, I don't have something, because if we hire somebody in a particular job, we provide the tools that they need to have to be successful in their role. Manufacturing has been in person. Again, the safety protocols to keep 6 feet apart and do all that kind of thing has been absolutely in place. So it feels a little different when you come on board and you get acclimated. But again, the ML folks, the manufacturing folks we have are the machinists and the welders and people on the chain and the paint. They don't need the computer component to have that virtual side. They have to be here.
Yeah, we've been demoing the idea of using Zoom potentially, because Zoom does have a waiting room function. Now, again, going back to not having technology, that's why we're still having open interview days. But as always, we're prefacing, in regards to CDC social distancing guidelines, we're providing masks. We're trying to hold as many career fairs as we can outside, like setting up tents. And having and doing it that way. That way, it's open air and we're, still keeping it distanced. Those are more, again, for the production side. But I will say I have not run into hardly anyone who doesn't have a smartphone in some aspect. I mean, it's just, and I get that question a lot too from our managers, like, oh no, what if they don't have a phone?
They have
Let's be honest. Like, They have one. Let's be real. That is not a issue I've really had in a long time. But if they do, then that's why we have open interviews or walk-ins or, you know, somehow able to adjust.
We have run into that actually with people that don't have technology. So what we've started doing is in our job description, it tells you what level or what bandwidth of Wi-Fi you need to do our position at home, because that was critical, right? And we started that when we launched our remote positions back in February and March. So we had done a remote pilot, which was great timing because then COVID hit and we're like, wow, we already onboarded a remote group of people, 15 people as a pilot. So it was perfect. But that was the biggest thing, is we've updated our job descriptions to talk about technology needed now to do your job at home. We also, if they don't have Wi-Fi, because we've had a few of those that don't even have Wi-Fi, we're sending hotspots to people and we send their webcams. So, and again, some of them have used their phone. I know with our HR coordinator, someone asked the question about paperwork and I-9s. We just will FaceTime them. We use Google Hangouts at SVG. So we do a lot of Google Hangouts and a lot of FaceTime. But yeah, we provide Wi-Fi if needed till they can get some, or also we tell them what bandwidth they need, and then webcams.
Yeah, for us, for candidates that don't have the equipment, I mean, most of them do, but let's say they're in a place where they can't use their video or they don't feel comfortable, then we just flip it to phone. Frankly, if they're not comfortable with Zoom, or we try to set up Zoom in our hiring manager prep document, we actually have backup. So if Zoom's not working, or you feel like you're having too many technical difficulties and not able to connect, if you both have FaceTime, you can connect there. If you both have Google Hangouts, you can connect there. Otherwise, just, you know, one of them went very much awry and they just both picked up the phone and called each other and made it happen. So I just, you know, I think now they did have a video interview later. We understood what the difficulty was at the time, because I think throughout this entire COVID season, we've learned, because our firm works with a lot of CEOs and CFOs and scheduling interviews and presenting candidates for executive roles, that we've learned when the CEO doesn't have his assistant to set up the iPad in front of him and it, you know, magically just happens, that we do have challenges with the technology. So we've actually had more challenges on the hiring manager side versus the candidate side.
Awesome. So, okay. So we talked a little bit about how that Aaron and Tila, you've given the tips to hiring managers about how they should handle video interviewing, because they don't know just as much as the candidates don't know. And I love that you're giving that advice to candidates, because I think in this time, particularly if you've never done a video interview before, that can be really intimidating of, oh my gosh, what do I look like? Where do I look? Do I look at the person or do I look at the camera? Like, all of that stuff can be really challenging. Are there any other tools that you've given to hiring managers to handle that kind of video interviewing? And I'm going to start with you, Erin.
I'm honestly trying to think. I would have to say, just treat it like a real interview, like they're in front of you, right? Like, they're there. Don't be eating your lunch. Don't be, you know, drinking. You want to make, I mean, seriously, like, you want to make sure that time is, should we all drink? Take a drink. That, you know, obviously water's fine, but, like, you know, be focused on them. You want to make sure that they feel like they're being attentive to. The other thing that drives me nuts is when they set one computer, like, at the end of the table and try to get everybody in, like, on one video. I'm like, it's cool. Take your laptop. Go ahead. You guys can sit around a table 6 feet apart. If you want to, just, you know, that way they can see your face. They can read your facial expression a little better. I try to recommend they do that, or stay in their office if we're still doing distancing, right? You know, operations people are fun sometimes to work with, which is great. Luckily, I'm such a blunt person. I'm just like, can't do this, can't be doing this. And they listen for the most part. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just very much, you have to kind of break it down and give them that human aspect. I think the human aspect is important to remind them, you know, hey, you're talking to a person. It's not just a video recording. Make sure you're paying attention.
Tila,
as I drink my water.
long as it's water. And Tila, have you been giving any additional information to hiring managers about this?
Not really. I think, more than anything, just having conversations to ease them a bit. I will say that little things, now we have used Zoom for all of our video interviews. We had to back up a couple to FaceTime, but for the most part, Zoom has worked really well. And what we provided them with is just, frankly, technical. So I provide them with a screenshot, like if we're looking at this Zoom right now, to show them how to turn their video on and off, to show them how to turn the sound on and off, because that's the most, frankly, that's the biggest glitch in all of this. We have shared with them, though, that they should be natural. They should do whatever it is that they would do in an in-person interview. And I mean that in every way, like just be your total natural self, because what I don't want to do is prescribe them so much that they become robots. And then the candidates aren't able to see what amazing people they are, and that they're funny, and that they like to joke, and joke appropriately, and that they like to have fun at work, or that they're, because what happens if we make the environment too sterile, then we lose the culture aspect, and you can still communicate culture through, a Zoom interview without specifically speaking to culture, like our culture is this way. So we encourage them to not get too stiff or too nervous, and to really be their natural selves. And frankly, it's, in my opinion, it's not about looking at the camera all the time. Because if you are just focused on the camera the whole time, then in my opinion, you're probably not being your true self. And you don't have space to really think and be creative, where most of us do a this or that. So we do want them to maintain their natural demeanor. The one thing we are strict on is that we ask them if they do need to eat during the interview, that they let us know that it's their, they don't have a break in the day, and we can call it a lunch interview. That way the candidate can feel like they have some food in front of them as well. And it's sort of a two-way street instead of feeling like it's really, not so much. But it's not rocket science, but giving them some guidance. One thing that we ask them for specifically is, do you need guidance on interview questions? Now, I know we do that in a natural environment, but they might be able to run to my office real quick and say, hey, can you hand me, like if I'm on site at a client, they could say, oh my gosh, I got this interview. Do you have some questions? And I can very quickly pull them up, print them off, and hand them some that are great general interview questions, but I can't do that if they're just about to jump on the Zoom. So we also provide them with a document that gives them an outline of great general questions, but then the competencies for the role, where they may want to ask specific questions based on the competency. We don't know, again, we are more flexible in our environment because we don't want to prescribe them so much so that they're not their natural selves.
Awesome. There's a question from attendee asking about waivers for Zoom interviews, and I don't want to put any of you all on the spot about that. I'll just tell you, there is no such thing. You don't need those.
Thanks, Kate.
Don't worry. I'll be the lawyer here, and I will say you don't need those. Don't feel like you have to have them. They're not helpful. In fact, it might be even more of a barrier to showing what you're like if you're asking them to sign a waiver. And so when we're in this space where we're trying to be really, really human, because we can't see each other, there should be as little barriers to creating those things as possible. And creating a waiver like that is just no. I mean, if you guys have all noticed, my children have left my house, left my door open while I've been here. And, that's the kind of thing that we should expect. Like we should expect to see a cat butt walk by my screen or something like that. And I think there's a bit of excitement when that happens, right? Like, yay, I get that you're in my house. The other piece that I want folks to talk about, and maybe you guys feel comfortable with this, is the idea that I don't want to be on video. So how do you approach a candidate who doesn't want you to see the inside of their house or their car or wherever they are at that point in time?
Then you create a beautiful wall like this. That's what you do.
Oh my God.
Seriously, I haven't had that before. I haven't had anybody say, I'm not going to be on Zoom. I'm not going to do this. I don't know. I love the word Erin used earlier, is human. And so, being a manufacturing company, Even my hiring managers aren't comfortable with the, oh my gosh, I can't physically see this person, or I need to interview these people. I'm like, I'm sorry, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. That includes you too. So you can't see that person virtually. So, I mean, physically. So we're going to try it virtually and just, be human. Have a conversation. It's not going to go perfect. I love the cat butt analogy. I have a bulldog and he snored through half of my whatever. I'm like, get out, right? I mean, it's just life, and you've got to grow with it. But it also humanizes the corporation that you're working with and who you're trying to be a part of, that team, that culture. If you have a culture that's so stiff, and I'll tell you, ours is a little stiff. We're a Swiss company, love you, but we're a little tight. It's lightened up a lot because we've had to. There's no choice. We just proved to the entire world that every single position before can now work from home. That we said, no, you can't work from home. We just did it, except manufacturing, right? Because they're in front of machines. So we really kind of opened the floodgates to the possibilities. So going back to your question, Kate, have I had a candidate say, no, I don't want to do that? No, I haven't.
We actually have. I've had
Oh,
one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had someone, and the funny thing, it was pre-COVID. Like, the lady would not do a video interview at all with us. She's like, I don't feel comfortable. She didn't want to get into the HireVue platform. Two things. First, she didn't want to be recorded because some of it is pre-recorded questions. She didn't like that aspect. And then she didn't want to do the video interview live. So then we were like, okay, at this point, we were flexible. Again, I said, let's just talk to her on the phone, do the interview, and then, but maybe she's not a great fit for us because you know what? You're facing a lot of clients. I mean, ours is not in person, but if you can't even go through the process like everyone else, I do have a problem with it. But again, we accommodated it. I don't know if she got hired. I don't remember. I'm guessing not, but.
So I will share. We had one instance. We did have one instance where a candidate was shy about video interviewing, and it's someone that I had actually known for a long time, and we previously worked together. And I said, what's the big deal? And so as I started asking her questions, I realized that she actually had fallen. She was running on the concrete during COVID because that's all you could do at the beginning of COVID was go outside. So she was running in her neighborhood, and she took it. She ate it. She fell, and she had a big old scratch on her whole forehead. And so she was like, Tila, and by the way, she was interviewing for an SVP of HR role. And so, I just told her, I was like, let's work together on this. Let's just adjust the timing. And I joked with her and said, if I need to come over and make you up, because most people know that I love the art of makeup, but like if I need to come patch you up over there, we can do that. But we did delay her interview for a week just because she was not saying that at first, but we finally got to the root cause. And it was something simple that, we could adjust and just wait another week for her interview, which we did. And she looked great by then. So.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I mean, I totally get that. I've not had anybody do that. Now I've had people do video interviews from weird places, and I have to explain to the hiring managers, like, maybe that was the only place that they could do it. I had a candidate recently that they were like, well, the interview was odd because he did it from his truck. I was like, the guy is working second shift. He was probably in the parking lot on his lunch break at work. And the other thing is, I was like, and you requested this time. This is him altering his schedule for you. So that's another thing that you have to kind of continue to do. Somebody put in the comments too, you can change the Zoom background. I can't. I don't know why mine doesn't work on my computer. But you could do green screen or whatever, like Kate's right now.
Don't do it.
Like, yeah. But I mean, and you've seen that's been very popular, but yeah, I mean, try to work with them. Like Tila said, find out what the real issue is. And going back to Tracy, girl, everything you said, yes, it's interesting sometimes being in manufacturing and seeing how, I guess, conservative or kind of, that them being so traditional in certain things, but then being forced into this, it's been super fun to watch. So
good word, fun.
Fun.
So another quick question, and then I'm going to take quickly, and I'll answer this one. Some harassment, respectful workplace training, online options, lots of them. The other thing you can do is you can hire a trainer and record it and share that with people and check in with them after. There are lots of us out there that you can do that training with who will do it. I mean, I think I've done 16 sessions already via Zoom, and it's been awesome. Another question for the group, have you used texting tools to communicate and collect documents from candidates? If so, which tools have worked best for you all? Anybody?
So I don't know. I text with my candidates. That's why I have my own personal cell phone and a work cell phone, so they don't get my real number. So I have texted. I will text back and forth with candidates. I find texting is very easy. I do know we currently use iSIMS as an ATS system. We do not have this thing, but they have something called, I think it's Text Recruit. That's a part of that where you can text back and forth through the system as well. I know Smart Recruiters also has a platform like that where you can text. I love texting. It's pretty much the only way I communicate, that and email, and a couple other chats, and Facebook Messenger. But I mean, I'm like, shoot me a picture of this. I need to see like Tila said, let's FaceTime. Let's do that. I would be as flexible as you can. And as long as the government, in regards to I-9, is cool letting you see stuff that's not physical in your hand, go with it.
We were a very paper company, right? And now we're paperless, and we're trying to be more sustainable and responsible. Look at that. And so we have, most candidates have email, right? Even if they're not on the production floor and they might not have a business email, they most likely have a personal email. And so it's been maybe one or two cases where we haven't, but most do. So we've changed all of our documents virtually to DocuSign. I mean, that's a simple link that people can just sign away, and then it's saved into our payroll system and that kind of thing. So there's just ways that you've got to work around it and eliminate it. And that's, then you can just carry that forward outside of COVID.
Awesome. Okay, so Tila, I got one more question for you. What considerations are you making in HR and talent acquisition for leading remote teams at this point in time? What tools, what tricks do you have on that front?
I think it goes back to what I mentioned earlier about just over communicating. And there's, the one thing that COVID and this virtual workforce that we're all a part of now has reinforced is just our ability to constantly communicate with each other. And, making sure that your talent acquisition team as a leader is aware of the risk involved with virtual interviewing and hiring, also making sure that the team is connected, that we're sharing one message from a culture and EVP perspective when talking about the organization, and being on the same page is critical. Also just communicating with each other, making sure simple things like making sure that anytime you touch a candidate, it's noted in the system so that we're not also, sort of reinventing the wheel, or two of us calling the same person in one day, having the same spiel about the same role, updating your notes. A lot of recruiters and talent acquisition professionals will update later or feel like they'll get to it later. And so we have reinforced updating the system in real time, which has been critical for us as we reach out. But having multiple touch points with the hiring managers, making sure that your team members are constantly in contact with them. And what we have is sort of a five-day business rule that we want to provide an update at least every 5 days, even if it's no news is good news, or no update at this point, or we're still sourcing for that role, or we're talking to 3 people this week, or I have 5 interviews set up this week. It's very, very critical. And, the one part in all of this is we have focused as a society so much on how do we help people better work from home? How do we help recruiters have the tools they need to virtually recruit? How do we make sure the hiring managers are prepared? But then we sort of leave this relational connectivity amongst the team out to dry. And so even setting up a buddy system on the team, especially if you have a larger team, and some of our clients have larger teams, and setting that up so that, maybe a pod of 4 of them, or a smaller team inside of the team, that they're connecting, and then that you're connecting with them or jumping on their team Zoom periodically is really important during this time, because frankly, the pause and space in communication for your team as a leader during this time is something where people can just start making up and fabricating rumors. And it's critical that if you do need to keep your recruiters right now because you have projects in front of you, that you're communicating their value, that you're reinforcing that you're grateful for what they're doing, that you want to thank them for sort of riding the storm out with you as we ride it all out together. But then also providing them with days or afternoons where they call you and say, you know what, I have, 4 Zoom meetings today. My last one ends at 4. You know what? Well, then log off at 4. Just be done. You've done a great job. Thank you so much for your help. Providing people with that space to say, we don't need you to be logged in for the rest of the day. And you as the manager or leader just saying that periodically to people. Certainly if like an offer comes in, then they may have to jump back on and do that. But otherwise, just giving people the freedom of space right now is really critical as a leader in general to make sure that they have time to process and understanding the critical nature of the fact that so many people like me, my husband's in my house right now, just on the other side of the floor. My daughter's upstairs. So giving people that time to be able to, check in with their families as well, and checking into, I keep saying we need to check on people, not check in. So not like check-ins, like, have you checked these boxes today, Sally? No. But saying, how do you feel? And then listening for the response and then helping them process that. And I know there are many technical recruiting things we can talk about, but treating humans as humans right now is very, very critical, not just seeing them as a colleague.
Can I say 2 things on that? I love that. I absolutely love what you just said, Tila. Asking for feedback from our new hires and the people that are on our team currently. Just because you have a new hire and we're working virtually, you still have the rest of the team that might not be used to working virtually. So asking for feedback and as a manager being vulnerable in that aspect does tremendous amount of good for you, right? And then I think a lot of managers are scared to screw up. Well, you know what? We don't know how to do this. There's no manuals of this is how you work from home and this is how you do things. So you try it and you change it if it doesn't work for you. And with that feedback and the combination of trying things by error and seeing what works, and the feedback really helps you kind of divert to be better and be successful.
Awesome. I applaud all of you for making sure that you're still treating your people as actual people and humans. Some of the things that my clients have been doing to do that includes just being silly, right? Like doing your hair goofy, like staying in your pajamas for the day, like appropriate at least, right? But like, making sure that there's time to have a little bit of fun as well. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Jason, who's got a couple parting words. But thank you so much, ladies. It was great to see you and hear your great tips.
Likewise, thank you so much, all of you. Amazing conversation, amazing insights. Super excited to share the recording later this afternoon, as I mentioned. And I did want to call out one thing. On July 15th, we'll have our next webinar, and that will be focused on fall recruiting for university recruiting professionals and early career professionals. So if that is you or one of your colleagues, feel free to let them know. You can find out information on our website at www.recruiters.network. And we'll see you in a few weeks. Take care, everyone.